Welcome back, everybody. Today, we'll be discussing the Jordan 2 Chicago. Specifically, we'll be discussing whether it should sell or hold the Jordan 2 Chicago and why that is. To preface this, if you guys enjoy these types of videos regarding the market, reselling, and even info on how to acquire these limited products, be sure to subscribe and enable post notifications. This way, you're always 100% updated. Furthermore, for more urgent updates like the recent shock drops we've seen, follow my Twitter, KeithAdam10, and also personals for you. And of course, for early information before these drops actually occur, Endurance has your back, such as the shock drop for the recent SB Dunk Low Why So Sad. Now, for those who don't know, the Jordan 2 Chicago releases on December 30th, tomorrow. However, some pairs already did shock drop in Europe through a Sneakers Live not too long ago. Retail will be $200 on men and women's sizes, $140 on grade school, $85 in preschool, and $65 in toddler. We'll just be focusing on the men's pairs today though. Stock on these is rather high for Jordan 2 at over 140,000 pairs, but this is quite typical for other popular retros. In order to determine if the Jordan 2 Chicago will be a fruitful hold, we will cover an estimated range for what the sneaker will settle at after the drop, and also when shipments come in, essentially all the pairs going into circulation, whether they're expected to increase post-drop or even hypothetically decrease, along with how much specifically over specific periods of time, and finally, what type of margin are we looking at for these in terms of holding. Not the retail to resale initial margin, but rather just the hold margin over X period of time. Kicking it off, let's discuss the estimated range that these should be settling at. To begin with, again, stock for these is rather high for Jordan 2, but this is not unusual compared to many Jordan 4 or Jordan 1 releases. In addition to the large stock, these are obviously still Jordan 2s, unfortunately, which tend to carry lower demand on average than other retros. However, it is an iconic colorway, which in itself consistently generates high demand. And despite these being Jordan 2s, the high sales volume seems to reflect pretty decent demand, but this is of course with a rather low pre-sale in the mid-200s. Unfortunately, retail on these is not the usual $175. Nope. These are unfortunately priced at $200. And with that said, it's looking like unless there is a positive impulsivity effect by a good amount, these will be brick profit with a very poor margin at best if you have no tax, and personals if you have tax, unless you have local buyers and could avoid the seller fees. So yeah, it's not looking great. Now, regarding a specific range, prices have already seen the vast majority of their pre-drop decrease since it is the day before. This leaves the current average at about $249 for sizes 8 to 12, but of course, this is only the pre-drop average. We normally see a notable change post-US drop. This is when we normally experience what I like to refer to as the impulsivity effect. You guys should know what I'm referring to by now, as we discussed this very frequently, yet it almost always occurs to some degree. Regarding the impulsivity effect, if you haven't watched my seller hold videos before, sneaker drops specifically impact human impulsiveness significantly after an individual fails to acquire that desired product due to insufficient supply and too much demand. Therefore, on average, we normally see about a 5 to 10% increase of the pre-drop prices post-drop. When it comes to these, while the stock is on the higher end, I think it's more likely that resellers are overselling these at the moment since Jordan 2s typically don't do well. So perhaps there is some pre-drop panic on these simply because they're a Jordan 2, which is very understandable. It's also worth noting that as a general release, there are a lot of pairs already in circulation from Flex app reservations, Finish Line and JD Access pre-sellers, and even the Europe shock drop. So it's certainly possible that these are a bit oversold right now, but again, this is understandable since they are Jordan 2s. So while I'm not expecting the full 10% positive impulsivity effect, I'm still expecting a positive impulsivity effect of 5%. Considering these are the iconic Chicago colorway at the end of the day, and I think it's very possible that these are just slightly oversold at the moment. This could potentially leave prices at $261 on average from sizes 8 to 12, so larger sizes would hypothetically hang in the high 200 range temporarily, and smaller sizes just below the mid 200s. Remember though, this is just temporary. Now let's discuss what prices will look like once the shipments go out in the 1 to 2 week range. During this period, the vast majority of pairs will be going into circulation. As usual for general releases, I'd expect the typical 10% decrease, nothing unusual here. This would then hypothetically leave prices at about $235. So larger sizes should still hover in the mid 200s and small sizes in the low 200s. So Obviously, not ideal for resale, unfortunately. Even with that positive impulsivity effect, these are mostly just personals unless you have no tax and you're okay with brick profit, or you have local buyers and that's really only for the large sizes. But now that the average price ranges at those points in time are evident, let's discuss whether they're expected to increase from the post-shipment prices or even hypothetically continue to decrease. Considering the post-drop value for these will already be so low, I really can't see these dropping much further, as I wouldn't expect to see these under retail considering they are the iconic Chicago colorway at the end of the day. Now, do I think that they'll start to increase right away? Probably not. I'd expect something similar to what we're seeing on the Meunier Jordan 2s currently, which has been about no movement after their initial fall from grace. Hence, I would have to say that I am expecting these to actually plateau after their post-shipment range, very similar to the Jordan 11 Cherry we recently discussed. Long term though, I do expect these to eventually increase since, again, these are the iconic Chicago colorway. But it could definitely take a while until we see a notable increase. Now finally, regarding the hold margin on these, essentially, are these actually going to be worth your time even if they do eventually increase? Considering I'm expecting to see a pretty long plateau for the most part on these, perhaps for around a year, that certainly wouldn't allow for any good ROI short term. Again, similar to the 11s we recently discussed. Long term, I do believe that these have solid potential since they are the iconic Chicago colorway, but I wouldn't expect anything absurd, especially because even the off-white Chicago glows have only been decreasing lately, but of course, that's because they were so high initially. Maybe in a few years, we could see these hit the mid 300 range, so hypothetically, that would provide a 35% ROI in that best case scenario, which is good, but still nothing spectacular by any means. Hence, I would rate these below average at 4 out of 10. Not terrible, but definitely not ideal, mostly because of the long plateau period I'm expecting, which is very, very similar to what we discussed for those Cherry 11s. I am shipping to a no tax state, so I actually will be going for a couple of large sizes for some brick profit, and I will be quick selling all of my pairs during the impulsivity effect, if there even is one. Of course, I could very well be incorrect, but I also do want to keep a personal pair because I actually do kind of like these. Let me know how you guys feel about this pair for the toe though. Also, just a note in general for anyone considering holding any items who does have low capital, you should never hold anything in general if you don't have sufficient capital to go for as many drops as possible at your full potential without holding back. If you need money to go for all drops, try to sell these as soon as possible. Let me know what you guys are doing with your pairs down in the comments below. Since this is a discussion at the end of the day, I can't predict the future. This is just my personal analysis based on the data that I've acknowledged. We have a lot of brilliant minds watching right now, so I implore you to leave your notions down in the comments below. But anyway, that will conclude it for today. You can feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed, or perhaps if you learned a thing or two, subscribe and enable post notifications. This way you stay 100% updated on all hype releases. Also, feel free to check out the links in the description below for reliable, fast, residential proxies from Kit Proxies. You can also now join e-deals with the link in the description below for only $14.99 per month. Furthermore, feel free to follow Endurance on Twitter for updates on restocks or key giveaways, and the same goes for Gargantua if you want to keep up with the progress or restocks. Last but not least, make sure to follow Keith Adam 10 and Personals for You so you guys stay updated on all urgent info like I was going over today. With that though, I will see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day.